So I think when you first start in photography or videography, you obviously have no idea kind of what gear you need or what gear you want or kind of what your own personal preferences are, because, you know, those kinds of things come with time and experience. So I see a lot of photographers, myself included, when they first start, is that they just kind of buy everything. Every kind of zoom lens, every kind of prime lens, every camera body, and they think that they just like need to cover everything. They need to have every focal length from 16 millimeters up to 400 millimeters and everything in between, so that you are prepared for whatever circumstance you might ever find yourself in as a photographer. And like I said, that's something that I did, but as time goes on, as you develop as a photographer, you start to kind of develop your own unique style and perspective, and you start to realize that you don't need every single piece of gear that is available. I had a couple people comment that they were tired of me sitting and holding the microphone to my face, so hence we got the mic arm out today. Let me know what you prefer. Do you prefer the mic arm? Do you prefer me chilling back and holding the microphone? To be honest, I was holding it because, as you can probably already tell, I move a lot with my hands when I talk, so having something to hold kind of like stops me from moving with my hands a bunch, and I also just, I don't know, I feel more relaxed. I'm still getting used to talking on camera, and for some reason having something physically to hold and talk into helps me to kind of relax when I sit down to record these videos, and just kind of helps me. But we're gonna try the mic arm today. Let me know which one you prefer, or if there's other solutions that I should look into. But for today's video, microphone, mic arm. Anyway, mic arm versus holding my microphone is not the topic of today's video. Today is actually going to be what is not in my camera bag and the gear that I am selling going into 2024. Like I mentioned in the intro, as a photographer, when you first start out, you accumulate a lot of gear because you just don't quite know what you like yet, and you just find peace of mind in having everything readily available to you. And that's definitely how I was. I picked up a ton of gear. I thought I needed every single zoom lens, every single prime lens, but you know, as the years have gone on, I've started to gravitate towards different lenses and focal lengths and cameras and features, and I'm not quite using everything that I own anymore. You know, I've developed my own style and my own perspective, and I know now after experience what I like to shoot with and what I like to use, so I'm gonna be letting some gear go this year, and these are the things that didn't make the cut. So we're gonna start things off with the lenses that are hitting Facebook Marketplace very soon. So the first lens that I am getting rid of is actually the Sony 20mm f1.8 G lens. Now, don't get me wrong, this lens is great, and I originally bought it for a replacement for like 16 to 35. So instead of having a wide angle zoom lens, I would just have this one prime. Told myself that 20mm was kind of the happy medium between 16 to 35, and that I would really get a lot of use out of f1.8, and it was small and compact and easy to throw in my bag along with my other lenses. And all of that was true, and I do still think that it is a great option if you're looking for an alternative to like a 16 to 35. It's also significantly cheaper. I think it's under $1,000, maybe right at $1,000. But since picking that lens up, I've actually picked up a 16 to 35, the G Master Mark II, and now I just don't feel like I need two wide angle lenses, mostly because ultra wide angles like 20 and 16 are not focal lengths I use all the time. It's not really something that is a prevalent focal length in my workflow, so I just don't really need both of these. And if I had to choose between the two, I'd just rather have the 16 to 35 because it's a little bit more versatile, and I just don't need f1.8 versus f2.8. It's not a huge difference for my workflow, and I've actually really been enjoying shooting some images all the way at 16. And I know 16 to 20 again doesn't sound like a big difference, but on the wide end of a lens, you know, you see a lot bigger difference from focal lengths from like 16 to 20 than you do from like on the tight end, so like 180 to 200. It's not as noticeable as 20 to 16. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna be getting rid of the 20mm plus the 16 to 35 is they made it a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter, so kind of the travel convenience of the 20mm, while still better than the 16 to 35, it's just not as noticeable with this newer version that I've picked up. All right, the next two lenses that I'm letting go, I'm gonna do together because they're complementary lenses to each other. So I'm going to be getting rid of my 35mm f1.4 and my 85mm f1.4. So these ones are a little bit hard for me to kind of decide to let go, but I just don't use them anymore, and we'll get into that in a second. But the reason these are so hard for me to let go is because these were some of the first lenses that I purchased for photography. So when I was starting to get into portrait photography, I did a lot of research, and pretty much people said the consensus was you were either a 24 and 50 millimeter person or you were a 35 and 85 millimeter person. You know, and after doing some research, I found that 35 and 85 were kind of the lenses that I particularly wanted to shoot when I was first starting out. And I think that combo is probably the better one to if you're just getting started compared to 24 and 50. Especially since 24 being a little bit wider is a little bit more trickier to use and to get flattering images of your subject. So if you're starting out, 35-85 is definitely the way to go. So as my time as a photographer has progressed, I've actually done a complete 180 and have transitioned over to shooting 24-50. And so since I've made that change, I don't feel the need that I need to have both setups. I don't need a 35 and an 85 and a 24-50. I don't think you need all 4 of those primes. You should pick one that you prefer out of that set, either 24-50 or 35-85. Pick which one you prefer, and then kind of supplement those with zoom lenses to kind of get those in between focal lengths if you need them. But yeah, as I have progressed in my photography and kind of found my unique style, I just started to find that 50 millimeters and 24 millimeters just kind of fit the aesthetic and the kind of images that I wanted to capture a lot more, and I kind of outgrew my 35 and 85. I'm also going to be letting go of 2 more 35 millimeter lenses. Yes, I have 3 35 millimeter lenses, and that's because when I started photography, 35 became my favorite before obviously switching to 50. So I ended up picking up 3 different 35 millimeter lenses. I have a $200 one from Tamron, a $600 one from Sigma, and of course the like $1,400 35 millimeter G Master from Sony. But yeah, obviously I'm getting rid of my 35, so I'm not going to need all of these 35s, so I'm going to be getting rid of all of them. But I think before I do, I'm going to do a video kind of comparing these lenses at different price points and see how much you really gain by kind of jumping up in price. And maybe we can find kind of a sweet spot if you're looking to get a 35 millimeter lens. So leave a comment down below if that's a video that you think you'd be interested in seeing, me comparing a $200, $600, and $1,400 35 millimeter lens. That sounds interesting. Again, leave it down below. I'll make that video. All right, so the last piece of gear that I will be letting go, at least in this kind of first round of me decluttering, we're kind of obviously just kind of focusing on the camera bodies and lenses. I have a ton of other gear like gimbals, microphones, drones that I could probably honestly make a whole nother video on, kind of decluttering all of that, camera straps, but we're just gonna focus on the camera bodies and the lenses, or else we could probably be here forever because I've accumulated a lot of gear. But yeah, so the camera body I'm gonna be letting go of is the Sony a7C Mark II. Now, I am not getting rid of this camera because it is bad or that it is not like a great camera that you should pick up. It's just because I have 3 camera bodies. I have the Sony a7C II, like I just mentioned, I have an FX3, and I have a Sony a7R5. And honestly, I just can't justify owning 3 camera bodies because I just never really use all 3 of these at once. I barely use 2 at the same time. You know, I use a Sony a7R5 for photography and the FX3 here for video, and then I kind of justified the Sony a7C II as kind of being like a backup for both of those cameras. So if I need a backup photography camera, I could use the C2 for that, or if I needed, you know, a backup B cam for video, I had the A7C for that as well. But honestly, like that situation where I would need to do that does just not arise a lot in the content that I'm making. And the other reason I picked up the C2 is because I wanted like a small, like every photographer goes through, I think at one point in their career, is that they want like a small compact camera to like carry around with them and capture everyday life and their friends, and you know, and document their life with like a smaller camera. So again, like every photographer, I went down that rabbit hole of trying to figure out what small camera I wanted. Did I want a Leica? Did I want a Fujifilm? Ultimately settling on the a7C II because it was small. I could use my Sony lenses on it if I needed to. But I don't know if it's just because I don't live a super exciting life, but I just almost never find myself in situations where I need a small everyday camera to capture everyday things because my life's not super exciting. I'm either out shooting, like dedicated, I'm out for the purpose of shooting, and for that obviously I'm going to use the FX3 of my Sony a7R5, or I'm just at home by myself on the computer editing, or you know, watching YouTube like every other normal person. I just don't really find myself going out and about all the time where I can find stuff worth documenting with a dedicated camera. Along with that, you know, with the latest iPhones, you know, having an iPhone 15 Pro, I'm able to get incredible images and video just directly out of this camera. You know, it shoots in RAW, it shoots in log, and because the iPhone's gotten so good, it's just all the more reason that I just really don't need to carry around a smaller camera with me, because if I really need to capture a moment and I don't have my camera, I can rely on the iPhone because it's still gonna give me great results. They're not gonna be as good, but they're still gonna be more than good enough for sharing on social media or just for like putting in my journal or for remembering something. But yeah, that'll do it for this video. That is everything that I am selling and letting go of in 2024 as far as camera bodies and lenses. So let me know what you think of my decisions down in the comments. Did I pick the right lenses? Did I get rid of your favorite lens? Let me know in the comments and we can talk about it. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.